Are you ready to make some cinnamon rolls with me? These are from scratch, they're delicious, and you'll have some left for later. You don't want to miss it. Let's jump on in. Hi, I'm Katherine, and welcome to my table. We're going to put the dough together first. We're going to start by getting our yeast going. I've got 1/2 cup of warm water here. You don't want it too hot, but you do want it warm so it'll activate your yeast. I've got 2 packets of yeast, and I'm just going to add that to our water, just like this. And then we're going to just kind of give it a quick stir, just to kind of get it going. Okay, and so now that I've got that mixed a little bit, I'm just going to add 2 tablespoons of sugar. This is just going to help activate it a little bit quicker. Just about like that, okay? Now give it another mix. Okay, we're going to set that aside. Let it keep working. This is an unusual ingredient in cinnamon rolls, but this is part of what makes them so soft. We're going to use 1 box of instant vanilla pudding. This is just the smaller box, the 3.4 ounce box. Put it in your mixer and then add 2 cups of milk, just like you would if you were making pudding. All right, there's our 2 cups. And I'm just going to kind of let that mix for just a minute. So now that we've got our pudding mixed, and it doesn't have to mix all the way, you just want it to kind of mix the milk and the pudding together. But we're going to add, this is 1 stick of butter that's melted, 1/2 cup, 1 stick. We're going to add the butter, and we're going to add 2 eggs. And then we're going to do about a teaspoon of salt. I'm just going to measure this in my hand. About like that. It'll be perfect. And then I'm going to mix this. When it gets fairly thick, the way it looks right here, that's good enough. And so we're going to start to add just the rest of our ingredients. All right, our yeast and our water and sugar mixture that we set aside. Looks like it's about ready. And so we're going to add that. That's what's going to help it rise up and make good, tall cinnamon rolls. I'm going to give it just a quick mix. And then we'll add our flour. This is just plain all-purpose flour. And we're going to need probably around 6 cups. I'm going to start out by adding 4 cups. And you want it to be pretty level. There, like that. There's 2. There's 3. And here's 4. And I just don't like to add too much flour at one time, so that's why I'm going to wait on those last couple of cups. We'll go on low. Let it get mixed in a little bit first. All right, and I'm going to turn it up just a little. All right, I'm going to add 2 more cups now. Okay, and I'm going to make this cup kind of short, not quite a full cup. And then we may need to go back and add a little more, but we'll see. Turn it on low. Okay, once it looks like it's almost mixed in, then we're going to turn it up. Okay, I'm going to kind of test it. It's still pretty sticky. So I'm going to add, I think I'm going to add about 1/2 cup here. Because that 6 cups is really just a guesstimate. I think we're going to need just a little bit more. Okay, and that looks like it's pretty good. So now we just need to cover this bowl and set it aside and let our dough rise. And that is probably going to take, between 1 to 2 hours, just depending on how warm it is that day and the environment that you're working in. So, and I'm going to kind of scrape the bowl so that all our dough is together. And I'm just going to cover the bowl with this. And then we're just going to set it aside and let it rise for a little while. We'll come back and check it then. I'm going to go ahead and get our filling ready. So I've got 2 sticks of butter, and I've put it in the microwave just for 10 to 15 seconds. You judge your microwave, but you just want it easy to work with, but you don't want it in liquid state yet. And so what we're going to add is 2 cups of brown sugar. There's 1 and 2. And then we're going to add about 2 tablespoons of cinnamon. We just want to mix this up. And you can skip this step if you want. You can just spread your butter directly onto the dough once you roll it out. And then you can sprinkle the brown sugar and the cinnamon on top. But I like to kind of make a paste out of it. That's kind of the consistency that this is going to be. I just find it is a little bit easier to work with. So I take the time and just do this extra step. It's already coming together. So it's going to be easy to spread, but it's going to stay on the dough very well. Now I'm going to set this aside. Now, let me show you the dough. You see how much this has risen in the bowl? It's about doubled in size. We'll take our plastic off, and it's ready to turn out. We want to sprinkle just a little bit of flour. And you're going to need a pretty big surface for this. Although we're not going to do the whole bowl of dough at one time. I'm going to split it up into about 2 different sessions of cinnamon rolls here. All right, so we've got our surface floured. Then you just want to kind of take your dough, punch it down a little bit. And then just kind of divide it in half. You can just use your hand for this. And if you need to get a little extra flour on your hand to make it easier to work with, you can do that. Okay, I'm just going to kind of divide it and scoop up about half of it and put right down here. And then our dough is still a bit sticky. In fact, you can see some on my hands. You could have added a little more flour while it was in the mixer, and that would have been fine. But you can also just incorporate more flour into it now. You just kind of want to get it covered all over with flour. That's going to make it easier to work with. And then we will just knead it just a few times. You don't have to do it a lot. Okay. And then I'm just going to make sure we've got flour underneath it again and a little flour on top. And then also going to put a little bit of flour on our rolling pin. Okay. So now we're going to start rolling it out. And we just want to make a big rectangle. That's the easiest shape to use for cinnamon rolls. And one thing that I have found as you're rolling it out, your dough wants to kind of spring back to where it was. And so I roll it out a little bit, kind of like I'm doing now. And then, as you see it springing back, I just kind of give it a rest. I just stop, not for very long, 20 or 30 seconds. Just kind of let it rest, and it kind of gives that dough time to kind of acclimate to what you're doing to it here. And then I go back to it and roll it out again. And it seems to work a little better. It just kind of feels like you're not fighting with that dough as much if you just give it a little resting time in between. And you want this pretty thin. I haven't measured it, but I'm guessing maybe 1/4 of an inch, if that. Maybe even a little less than that. Okay, that looks pretty good. All right, now we've got our paste here. So I'm going to take part of it, and I'm just going to kind of spread it in a few different spots. Okay, that may be enough. We'll see. Then I'm going to take my small spreader that works it a little bit easier. And we're just going to kind of work it around the dough. That was just a little bit too pasty, so I went back and I put this in the microwave for just a little bit longer. And that's going to make it easier to spread. So let's see if we can finish this up now. I'm going to spread it all around, but we want to leave a little bit of an edge that's not covered, just to be able to roll up the cinnamon rolls. So now it's time to roll them up. And you want a good tight roll. And I just kind of use my finger and go all the way across the bottom. Kind of help it get that good tight start all the way across. Okay. And you put that flour underneath, so that's going to help it not stick. But if you have any spots where you feel like it's sticking a little bit, just kind of use your fingers and just kind of pull that up as you go along, and it'll work out just fine. Okay, now I'm going to add just a little more flour around that edge because it's a little extra sticky on that edge where it comes together, which we want it to be a little sticky to help it stay together. But then we want to kind of make it easier to work with to get it in our pan. So just go back now and add a little bit of that flour. Now, if you had dental floss and you wanted to use that to cut these, that's a great way to do it. Today, I'm just going to show you using a knife. So I'm going to kind of cut off these ends. Sometimes they're the ones that aren't as pretty. And I cut them pretty good and thick, kind of like this. And then you see inside, okay, there, you get to the center and you really start to see the swirl in the cinnamon roll. And you don't want to place these too closely together in your pan because, in fact, I'm going to switch these out and get some bigger ones so these will all kind of match the same size in here because I'm going to have to do multiple pans. So I'm going to do about 6 in here, but you have to let them rise one more time. And so you want to leave room for that. So here we're taking the second part of the dough. And you see you want to get your dough to the point where it's easy to work with and it's not sticking to your hands. That looks about right. I'm going to take the rest of our brown sugar mixture. Looks like this is going to be just about the right amount today. I'm going to show you a way to cut them out today that's a little bit different than you may have seen before. Normally you roll up the whole roll and then cut them after they're rolled up, but this method is going to prevent them from flattening out as you cut them. So we're going to cut them first. I'm just going to kind of cut off that edge a little bit there. So we're going to cut them first and then roll them up individually. And it helps you get an even tighter roll. And it helps it stay a nice, pretty, round shape. And remember, we want to leave a little bit of space in our pan because these rolls need to rise one more time before we bake them. There you go. Look how pretty that looks. And it takes maybe a little more time to do it this way, but not that long. I think it's so worth it. All right, so I've covered them again with plastic, and we're going to let them rise again. And this doesn't take as long the second time. It will probably be only about an hour until they're risen enough and ready to bake. But I just want you to look, even right now, look at the difference between these cinnamon rolls. This one, where we did the traditional method, rolled the whole roll up at once and then cut it with a knife. And even this pan, which these were the ones from the center that look the best. They look the prettiest. Okay, so you see how these look. Now look at the difference in how they look when we cut them out with the pizza cutter and we rolled them up individually. These just look perfect compared to the other ones. So we're going to see what they look like after they rise and after we bake them. It's taken just about 1 hour exactly for our cinnamon rolls to rise again. And so we are ready to put them in the oven. So you can see the two different kinds we have. These are the ones that we cut out individually and rolled up. And then these are the ones that we rolled up all together and then cut with the knife. We are about to pop them in the oven at 350 degrees. And they take anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes. We're going to make a cream cheese icing to go on these cinnamon rolls. That's our family's favorite kind. This is going to make a lot, but it's going to be enough for all those pans of cinnamon rolls that this recipe makes. So we're going to take 1 block of cream cheese and 1 stick of butter. And all of this needs to be room temperature. I'm going to go ahead and give it a quick mix and just let them cream together a little bit. Okay, it's starting to come together. So now we're going to add 4 cups of powdered sugar. And I'm going to put just a splash of vanilla, maybe 1 to 2 teaspoons. And I'm not going to measure. I'm just going to put some in there. That'll be good. You probably just need a couple of tablespoons of milk just to give it the right consistency. And I'm just going to kind of splash some in there. Just about like that. Okay, I'm going to turn it off now. That's looking pretty smooth, but I think I want just another little splash of milk. Like I said, this is probably 2 to 3 tablespoons. And I'm just going to let that go for about a minute or so. And you can see it's starting to get smoother and creamier looking. Now I'm going to show you an easy way to ice the cinnamon rolls. We're going to do it while they're still warm. When they first come out of the oven, they'll be a little bit too piping hot. We won't do it yet, but we'll wait just a few minutes, and while they're still warm, we will pipe some of this delicious cream cheese icing on top of them. I have just a simple piping bag that you use for icing. Now, I have used a Ziploc bag for years, and you can absolutely just use a Ziploc bag and then snip a corner of it off if you want to. That works great, and that's all in the world you would need for this. But an easy way to fill it is to just put your bag over a large cup, then just kind of scoop it out a little bit at a time. And put it down in that piping bag. And then just pull the edges of your bag up. And then you twist the end of it. And then we're going to just push that icing down. Now it's not going to go all the way down because you've got a little air pocket here, but when we snip that end, then you'll be able to push the icing all the way down, and then we'll get nice piping lines on top of our cinnamon rolls. Okay, it's time to take our cinnamon rolls out of the oven. They actually baked about 20 minutes. We left them in that whole time. It's so funny to me because before they went in, these were so much prettier. This is the ones that we did where we cut them individually and rolled them up and put them in the pan. And they looked perfect to start with. And they still have a really good swirl in them. This is the pan that we did the more traditional way, where you roll the whole roll up and then slice it. And we just used a knife. Remember, we did not use dental floss or anything to help it. And so they did not look that pretty once we put them in the pan. But now that they've risen and now that they've baked, they actually turned out very pretty. So leave in the comments and tell me which ones you like better. And if you give them a try, let me know which way you which method you use. I really want to hear from you. So now it's time to ice them. They've sat for maybe about 5 minutes. Okay, so I'm just going to snip just the tail end. You can see that we can push our icing on down to the bottom. Okay, and I kind of go in a crisscross pattern. I start out this direction and I just go diagonally across the whole pan. It just makes a pretty pattern. You can do it however you like. It doesn't have to be pretty. You can just take a spatula or a spreader and just spread the icing on top of the cinnamon rolls and it'll be just fine. They're going to taste delicious either way. There is a pan of cinnamon rolls. Looks like it's fit to eat, doesn't it? All right, now it's time for the true test. Let's see how they taste. You can tell how soft they are. Smells delicious. Looks delicious. Tastes delicious. That's a good cinnamon roll. And the thing about having that pudding in the mix, it just helps it stay fresh and soft longer. I feel like a lot of times cinnamon rolls can be wonderful when they're fresh and hot out of the oven. But then if they sit around for just a little while, they start to get hard and rubbery. These don't do that. That pudding helps them stay that same soft and pillowy consistency. They're delicious. Give them a try today. I think you'll like them. Thanks so much for joining me today at Mary Katherine's Table. I really enjoyed having you along with me. I hope you'll give these a try. Give me a comment. Let me know if you try them. Let me know how yours turn out. Let me know which method you use. I want to hear from you. Thanks again for joining me. And remember, go out and find someone who needs a little kindness today and give them some of yours.